So we're going to the last round, the fourth round of the Bloodstorm Slaughterfest. As it was only 2,000 points a game, we had a tournament with 4 games on one single day. And after having faced Ogre Khans and then Makar and finally Empire of Sunstal, I'm now going to face Highborn Elves. My army hasn't changed, so it's still the same army list, and you can hear some discussion in the first battle report. The army list of my opponent you can see now. So my opponent brought a High Prince who's going to go into some Lion Guard to make them stubborn. He has the, kind of standard setup with the protection of Dorak and the sliver of the Blazing Dawn on a spear. So for every hit he does, and he's normally going to hit on a 2+, he gets an extra hit, and he also gets an extra strength from this spear. So he goes to strength 5, and he often does like 8 hits at strength 5, and that's that's very scary. Then we have a mage on cosmology. It doesn't mention, but I believe it was a wizard adept. Then we have Highborn Lancers, 8 of them, 15 Sea Guard, and the Sea Guard Reaper. So this army focuses a little bit on shooting. But I think that at this point level, maybe the amount of shooting is not really going to contribute too much, because you can't zone as effectively as you can on 4,500 points to try and keep your enemy away. So the mileage you get out of your shooting is going to be way lower. But we'll see what happens. So for the pictures of the army, this time I took a picture of the deployment of our armies from a broader angle than the battle report, and we have a picture of the army of my opponent. So let's go into the battle. So as you can see from the video, the terrain hasn't changed really since the last battle, but the deployment type was totally different, so this didn't really bother either of us. I was able to choose stable side, and I thought they were virtually the same, except for the fact that I have some ruins on my side in which I could potentially hide my barbarians in case it was necessary. So for deployment we actually do it pretty fast, and we end up with the deployment you can see here. My opponent is very far away, so it doesn't really matter how I put my army down otherwise than me wanting to face my barbarians against his Lion Guard and having my Chimera to get some extra inches against this Bolt Thrower and the Sea Guard. And the rest is just basically filling up the voids. And we're off. So my opponent gets first turn, and he decides to move up aggressively with his Lion Guard and also with his Highborn Lancers. I believe he makes a bit of a mistake here with the Highborn Lancers, because he is quite focused on my barbarians and the Forsworn. But this enables me to just move up very unrestrained on my left flank in my following turn. So he could have prevented this by just turning his unit towards me, because the line of sight that he now wins on the right flank is totally useless, because I can't get there with any unit at all. So I believe he was quite glad having the first turn, because that means that he gets some extra shooting in. But in the first turn, I don't believe he might have shot a couple of barbarians maybe, but he didn't do a lot of damage anyway. So here you can see that I'm moving into uncontested territory on the left flank. So with the barbarians, they start to hack the ruins a little bit more in order for him to make it more difficult to charge in. Because if he's going to charge in, he's going to have to take some dangerous terrain tests. The Forsworn, they're not very eager to give him a charge, so they move back a little. And I'm outside of his charge range for the Highborn Lancers. And then on the left flank, I can zone his units pretty effectively. So if I had moved in a similar way as my opponent had with my knights, they would have been facing to the left now. So in this scenario, you can really see what kind of a difference it makes to properly angle your units. The Chimera is set up so that it can still intervene with the Highborn Lancers or the Lion Guard, or it can still charge the Bolt Thrower on the second turn, because it has movement 8, so it should have plenty of movement. Then still about my magic phase, I have Hellfire, I have Breath of Corruption, and I have Pentagram of Pain. I decided to just go all out on damage and forgo the 5+ ward save. And so the first spell I cast is Pentagram of Pain on the White Lions, and my opponent has to let this through, because otherwise it's going to be either 2d6 strength 3 with toxic attacks, or 2d6 strength 6, which is presumably nastier than d6 strength 4, but in d6 strength 4 I believe they do 3 wounds, and I get 2 more Veil tokens for the next round. So it wasn't a very big magic phase after all, so 3 wounds is quite decent for that. My opponent's turn, he decides to cautiously move back a little, because, well, apparently I have intimidated him a little. And he manages to put a wound on my Chimera, maybe 2, I don't actually remember. I believe 2 wounds, yeah. Just from the Bolt Thrower. And then the Sea Guard, they shoot at my... they also shoot, but they don't really do a lot, I believe. Yeah. So then we get to my turn. The Warrior Knights, they declare a charge against the Highborn Lancers, and the Chimera against the Bolt Thrower. The Bolt Thrower just stands, and the Highborn Lancers, they also decide to stand where they were. Might have been the wrong call here, because there's nothing really that I could have done were they to flee and rally again, and they might have come back. So probably my opponent should have fled with the Highborn Lancers at this moment. Probably losing 1 or 2 guys to the terrain, but it was an easy charge for the Warrior Knight, so I was very happy for my opponent to give me the charge. The Barbarians, they are more confident now because of some magic phase that's still upcoming also, and the fact that it's only 10 White Lion Guard now to start with. And then in the magic phase I cast Pentagram of Pain again, I get 6 hits, I get 6 wounds, and they are all not saved by the armor save, so holy shit. This unit is, yeah, completely wrecked. And yeah, considering that my only ranged output is a mage, and his ranged output is a bolter or a unit of Sea Guard and a mage, it's quite preposterous that I'm able to just nearly entirely remove a unit of Lion Guard, whilst my opponent is not even able to remove 4 wounds from my Chimera with twice the amount of points invested. So there was certainly some lucky rolls for me, wow. Okay, so in combat the Chimera manages to clean up the Bolt Thrower and proceeds to go into the unit of Sea Guard. The mage of my opponent is in the corner of the unit, and he is in contact with the Chimera. And then yeah, the Warrior Knights, they do 3 wounds only to the Highborn Lancers, so that's not too bad even. They really managed to hold their ground against the 10, 11 strength 6 attacks. But they don't do any damage back though, because I have a 2+ armor save, and oh well, a 1+ armor save. Yeah, stays a 1+ armor save. My opponent decides to split up his Lion Guard and the character, so the character is at the edge of the lake right now, ready to charge in the Warrior Knights. And actually the funny thing is that the objective for me for this game is to lose my Warrior Knights, and I was looking at the board and I was like, oh my god, the only chance I still have in order to lose this unit of Warrior Knights is his High Prince. I have to get him in his High Prince, and then whether I charge or he charges doesn't really matter, because he's gonna strike first anyway. But I have to choose a weapon option that makes me go last and makes me lose an armor save. And I might want to kill the High Prince in the process, but yeah, I'd rather just lose the unit really. So then for the Chimera fight, I realized I actually made a mistake here. So I have 5 attacks with the Chimera. I decide to distribute 3 of these attacks onto his mage, thinking that with the Stomp I can always hand the mage. But yeah, I realize now that you can't obviously direct Stomp attacks against specific models in a unit, so me actually striking down the mage in this combat at this point with 3 attacks, of which 1 didn't manage to wound, and then to correct it with Stomp was a bad move. That is why I actually put 3 wounds on the mage. Had I realized that you couldn't put a Stomp on the mage, I would have definitely put 4 or even just all of the attacks of the Chimera on the mage. Yeah, so sorry, my dear opponent, for this mistake. Next time we play, I won't do it again. Yeah, so turns continue. So it's my turn. I just leave the High Prince to be because I don't want to charge him in the rear or in any way. Because I want him to charge into my Warrior Knight. And I believe I still try to cast a Hellfire on him, but not a Breath of Corruption. Because, yeah, if I kill my opponent's High Prince with a Breath of Corruption, he's not going to be able to kill my Warrior Knight. And my unit actually now yields me twice the amount of victory points that they are worth with this objective. If they get killed to the man. So it's really important for me that this unit still dies. Yeah. So they're going to face the High Prince. I set them up so that I still have some attacks coming, able to strike back at the High Prince. I probably shouldn't have done that, because it means that I have a chance of inflicting some damage on him, which I don't want to do at this point, really. Some detail that you might have missed is that the final Lion Guard champion still charges my Chimera. And then if we go into combat, the Warrior Knights indeed lose 4 models. My champion still survives, but he flees away. He goes through the dangerous terrain. He needs to get 1 wound in order to go below 25%, because he has 2 wounds. He does. I'm very grateful for that, because now he only rallies on Leadership 4 instead of Leadership 5 instead of Leadership 9. Which makes me probably lose the unit, which I actually do. And then the Lion Guard champion with his 2 attacks actually manages to hit once, wound once. It multiplies into 2 wounds, so the Chimera dies. That was a shame. But anyway, in this tournament, only your victory points that you score are counted, so it's not a loss anyway. I mean to say that the points of the Chimera don't negatively count towards me, or don't make the difference between our victory points smaller, because we are not looking at that. So then the High Prince is still in the middle of the field, and I still have 2 units in the middle of the field. So I decide to charge him. I have a charge, I have 2 ranks, I have a banner, and I have a Doomlord, and he has a High Prince that go into a challenge. And I believe this is a magical moment where neither of us is able to inflict any damage to our opponent. And then my opponent's High Prince, he actually sticks in combat, and then next round, while I reform to get an extra rank with the Barbarians, we continue the challenge. And I managed to break my opponent's High Prince, and that's the end of the game. So that was another very good game for me. So in the end, out of the 34 players, I've managed to land a secure 10th spot. So most of your victory points in this format come from the victory points that you can actually score during the battle by killing your enemy units. But the objectives allow for another half of this. So for the 2000 point event, I would guess that you can get about 1000 points per objective per round, more or less. And the first round, the objective I had was to destroy standards of my opponent's army and maintain my own standards, because I thought it was going to be a struggle later in the day, and I thought it was quite an easy matchup for me, and I should have played it differently. So that's where I lost quite a lot of points. And the second matchup, my objective was to kill the enemy general in the challenge, which would have awarded me the 1000 points. But then, if your opponent decides to just run away with with his character, it's not going to work. Like as you can see in the next 2 rounds, I did manage to encounter the general of my opponent and actually slay him. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I should have taken another objective in the second round, but I was quite confident that my opponent would that my general would end up against my opponent's general in the second round. So I lost some points compared to other players. That's why I'm going where I got the 10 spot instead of any higher with the amount of carnage that I caused, because it actually went pretty well. But in the end, I was very happy to receive the judge's favor for the best painted army. So there's always an army vote by the participants, but also by the judge, and he thought that my army was a very intriguing army indeed. So I got awarded the best army on show, and I'm very happy with that, because it's still an army that I'm constructing and then intensively painting. So it really boosts your enthusiasm for painting to get such a prize. So thank you again, and hopefully see you in the next battle report.